This lecture describes the Syringe Excavator Challenge. Hydraulic arm syringes are a useful K-12 educational project to take a look at hydraulic forces and the geometry of machines. So this is a project that we've got for the BCIT Technology Teacher Education course, and we're showing future high school shop teachers how to do this project with their students. So follow along and we'll describe some of the challenges. There's many ways to do this challenge, and the way we're going to implement it is by moving plastic pellets from a bucket into a dump truck, and we're trying to move as many plastic pellets as we can in a 2-minute time interval. We've come up with some terminology here and built a playing field so that the teams can play head-to-head against each other. And the idea is that we're going to move the dirt, the plastic pellets, from the pit, the Rubbermaid roughneck tote, into the dump truck, a Ziploc container. This setup has been designed to make the project as affordable as possible. A scrap piece of 1/2-inch plywood and a couple of plastic containers. I was able to put this all together for well under $20. Okay, some of the things that we're looking at right in here is I've just used the lid to represent the location of where one team's excavator is going to be resting at the beginning of the match. And over here, the other team will be resting right over here, and the operators will be sitting behind the excavator zone. We'll get into those details in a minute. The dirt, the plastic pellets in here, should come in to the into the dump truck right here. And if the dump truck gets filled, the teams may stop operating the excavator and reach into the work site and dump the dump truck into an external container. So there's always going to be plenty of dirt to move, although I'll be really amazed. Maybe somebody will get it all out of the pit. So here's some of the restrictions that you're going to be working with. The excavator is only allowed to have 4 degrees of freedom, so that's axes of movement or rotation, and 3 of those axes, 3 of those degrees of freedom, must be actuated hydraulically. So you're going to be using your syringes to make them happen. 1 of those degrees of freedom may be actuated by hand, so in other words, that's a direct movement by one of the operators. The operators, however, must never enter the work site. They have to stay back here safe in the excavator control zone. This is like the cab of your excavator over here, and you can control things over here, but don't cross the red line. The only time you're allowed to cross the red line is when you let go of everything on the excavator, disabling the excavator, and reach in to reposition or take the dump truck out to dump it into an off-site storage container. So if you start to fill up your dump truck, you can reach in and you can dump it into an off-site storage container, but the excavator has to be disabled while you're doing that. If the dump truck's in the wrong place, you can ask the dump truck operator to move it. In other words, you stop operating the excavator and you move the dump truck, and then you can go back to operating the excavator once you're back behind the red line. At the beginning of your shift, the excavator may not be resting on the work site. It has to be 100% supported by the excavator zone. So you can't be holding on to the controls or anything like that. You've got to be hands off. You show up for work, you walk into the excavator zone, the cab, and you start to operate the excavator without it having been resting on anything out in this direction. So you're going to have a 2-minute shift, and this team down here is going to be having the same 2-minute shift, and we're going to see who can move the most dirt. And you can have up to 2 operators running the controls, and at the end of the shift, the operators have to release the controls on the excavator and allow it to come to rest. Now, that might be a cautious thing. If it's resting on the dump truck, okay, that's going to be a problem for you because you might not be able to get that dump truck off to the scale to weigh it. So don't let it come to rest on top of the dump truck. That would be bad planning on your part. So Scoring, you want to move as much dirt as possible without making a mess. Every gram of dirt that you successfully move into the dump truck is worth 1 gram or 1 point per gram. Any dirt that remains in the work site can be swept back into the pit, and any dirt that's fallen outside the work site in the excavator zone, on the floor, on the anywhere is environmental contamination. We'll sweep that up and we'll weigh it, and that takes 10 points off your score. So don't make a mess. The instructors, of course, reserve the right to alter or add to these rules at their slightest whim. So here's some dimensions and details right here, and you can see that the roughneck tote is flush mount into the bottom of the 1/2 inch plywood, and the tote is about 80. What's that? It was difficult to get this measurement, so we start down here at 570 millimeters, and we come up to 380 right here. So we're looking at about 19 centimeters of height right in there. Here's just a view looking down. You can see there's some ridges in the roughneck tote, and those might be things that your bucket for your excavator is going to have to watch for. I don't have detailed dimensions on all of that just yet. And looking over here, you can see that from the edge of the excavator zone to the beginning of the pit is 10, 11, about 110, 111 millimeters. The length of the pit goes from 111 up to it was much clearer when I took the photo earlier. I think we've got a better shot in the next slide. Let's see, there we go. We've got the width of the pit right here, comes out to 23 centimeters, 230, 231 millimeters, and we're at the halfway point right there. So we can say that that is 10, 16, it's about 32 centimeters, 320 millimeters from side to side. Here's your dimensions for the dump truck. Now, the dimensions for the dump truck might change slightly because Ziploc is always changing the size of their containers, but this should give you a rough idea that we're looking at something about 16 centimeters wide by 16 centimeters wide by 250 millimeters long. And the height of the dump truck right here is about 85 millimeters. This is the information on the side of the pit, the Rubbermaid roughneck container, and they're available for about $7 from Canadian Tire. So there we go. There's the introduction to your challenge. Move as much dirt as you can as possible without making a mess.